question, it says the growth rate of the function. Okay, so how much is this growing by? Now, remember, yesterday we talked about how growth factor is 1 plus your rate. Okay, so this is my growth factor. Okay, so my growth rate would be 1.33 minus 1. So what is that going to be? 0.33, which is also known as 33%. Does everybody see where I got that from? Okay, so growth factor and growth rate are two totally different things. You need to know that for your mastery check. Okay. The decay rate. Okay. This one is a little different. So the decay factor would be 1 minus R, right? And that's what's right here. So in order to figure out what the decay factor is, okay, we're going to take 0.87 and we're going to subtract 1 from it. That would give us negative 0.13. We would divide by that negative. So our rate would be 0.13 or 13%. Okay, when you have a decay function, that means that this little number right here, that's raised to the x, is going to be less than 1. When you have a decay function, you're going to have a number that is less than 1 in this little parentheses. Okay. On 13, it's asking you to write the equation, okay? And to figure out how many students there are. So on this first one, it says a school population is increasing by 10% each year since 2010. In 2010, there were 1,800 kids. What was my initial value? My initial value was 1,800. Okay, so it's going to be 1,800. So 1,800. And we're going to multiply it times 1 plus RR. So that's 10%. Now, where am I getting this equation from? I'm getting it from that like simple interest that we talked about. Okay. When we're dealing with population, this is the formula we're going to use. Okay. Now, they're trying to figure out how many students there were in 2016. So from 2010 to 2016, how many years was that? 6 years. So I'm going to plug in 6 for this x. So I'm going to plug in 6 for this x. So I'm going to go into my calculator. I'm going to type 1,800 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to 6 power. Can somebody do that for me, please? 3,188. Okay. And remember, when we talk about people, we have to round. Okay. We can't have half a person. Okay. So if you have a decimal at any point in time, make sure that you round. If it's a short answer question, if it's a multiple choice, you go with normally like the best. Normally they'll round it for you, but you go with the best option. Sometimes they round up, sometimes they round down. Just depends on the problem. 14, it says a population of kangaroos is decreasing by 7%. Okay, so when we're decreasing, we're using that 1 minus R. Okay. If there are 1,050 kangaroos now, how many kangaroos will there be in 5 years? So this formula is going to be our initial, which is 1,050 times 1 minus our R. Oops, that's off the screen. Okay. So 1,050 times 1 minus our R, which is 0.07. And we're going to raise it to the 5th power because they told us 5 years. Can somebody plug that into their calculator and tell me what you get? Plug it into your calculator. Tell me what you get. 730. So we go from 1,050 kangaroos to 730 kangaroos in 5 years. Okay, questions over that? Okay, on your mastery check, The first question is asking about compound interest. I'll give you that formula. Is everybody okay on compound interest? So compound interest is this formula, that P times 1 plus R divided by N raised to the NT. What? Okay. So P is our initial. R is our rate. What is N? What is N? Oh, this is very reassuring. Okay, N is the number of times it happens in a year. So if I say quarterly, how many times is that going to happen? 4. If I say monthly, how many times is that going to happen? 12. Does that make sense? We talked about that whole ly words at the very end. We said all the adverbs are going to tell us about this N value. Okay. Is there one on your thing? I think so. Should be one on here. There we go. Okay, and go to number 17. Number 17. Okay, this is quarterly. Okay, so again, I'm going to give you the formula. I want you to plug in. So here's the formula. See if you can plug in for part A. All right, your initial is 5,000. So we're going to plug that in to our equation. We're going to say 5,000 times 1 plus our rate, which is not 1.1. We need to change that to a decimal. We're going to move it over 2 places and put a 0. So we're going to say 0.011. And then for N, it says quarterly. So we're going to put 4. Now, our exponent is 4 times how many years did they tell us? 7. So now what you're going to do is you're going to type this into your calculator. The hardest part about this is typing it in. If you are using a yellow calculator, which you're going to be on your mastery check, you're going to want to put parentheses around this fraction right here. Okay? So there's parentheses here and there's parentheses around that fraction. Go ahead and take a moment, plug that in, tell me what you get. Then it doesn't make sense for you to sit all the way in the back. Well, you're making your decisions. So what'd you get? 4?
No. Oh, Robert Roberto Levelis.
Hey, so that you're telling me that nobody typed this into their calculator?
I did 5,399.639711.
Say it again.
5,399.63. Wait, oh, you only go to 2.
Is that what you got? All right, what'd y'all get? 5,153. You got what? Did anybody else get that? Okay, so you have to make sure that you're typing it in correctly. Okay, so when you type this in, you're using those parentheses around the fraction, and then you're using parentheses around that entire thing. Okay, so we got 5,000 parentheses 1 plus 0.011 divided by 4. And we're going to raise that to 4 times 7. And I got 5,399.63.
Come on.
I got the same thing as Mikkel. Okay, make sure that you maybe, how you're typing that exponent, you need to make sure you use parentheses around that one. Maybe that's your problem. Okay. All right, go ahead and look at the next one. Yes. Yeah, you can do it that way too. Without doing this one, the one that's inside. So some of your calculators are set up where it like sets it like a fraction, and some of them are set up where it's writing it in like this syntax form. So it just depends on what mode you have your calculator in.
How do I
Button is on the left-hand side under pi. Yeah, up caret. Okay. 5,399. What? The one that's below pi. So it's the little pi symbol. The one that's below it. The one that has a little caret, so it's pointing up towards the sky. That is the exponent button. Okay. So on the next one, it says it's compounded monthly at a rate of 3.2%. How much is it going to be worth after 7 years? Again, we start with 5,000. We say 1 plus. We're going to change this percent to a decimal. Okay, so this is going to give me 0.032. We're going to divide it by 12 because it's monthly. Okay, and then we're going to multiply 12 times 7. If we type this into our calculator, I got 6,253.49. So which option would you prefer? I would do option B because it earns you more money, because it's compounded more often. Your job is to figure out which formula goes with what thing. Okay, please don't ask me, is this compound interest? Because I can't tell you that on a test. I can't tell you that on the final exam. So you must know. If it says compounded whatever adverb, then you're going to use this guy. If it says it's increasing and it's not compounded monthly or anything like that, you're going to use this guy. If it says decreasing or deplete or depreciate, you're going to use this guy. You have to know when to use it. What's the difference between growth factor and growth rate? Growth factor is 1 plus your R. Again, I cannot tell you that. Growth rate is just R, whatever your R is. Okay, so if they give you something like 5 times 1.25, what is our growth factor? 1.25. Our growth rate is 0.25. Let's see where I get that from. Growth factor is 1.25 on that problem. Growth rate would be 0.25. Okay,